Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to a 7:30 Central edition of the Missing Wolves post-game podcast live stream thing. I'm Andrew Dukowitzis from Zone Coverage, and with me we got one of the OGs of the Wolves Twitter fandom, Brandon Beck from Crunch Wears No Pants. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. I'm excited to talk about whatever that was that we just watched.
Just a good old-fashioned ass kicking, which, like, you know, it's refreshing, right?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing is, obviously, this is what we just before we started hopping on the recording here, like what we were just talking about is like, this is what we've been clamoring for them to do against these terrible teams. So that in and of itself is good, but I don't know how much like real basketball analysis we can do around this game, because like my biggest takeaway from it is like, good Lord, the Washington Wizards are the worst defensive team I've ever seen. It was the Wolves didn't even shoot that well, and they were just scoring on every possession because it was just like everyone got to take turns dribbling by their man and then just playing 2-on-1 with Rudy. And it was like they either step up and you drop it off to Rudy and he dunks it, or they don't step up and you have a wide open layup.
What's wild to me is coming into this game, like in my prep, the Wizards have won 4 of 5. This is a team that has beaten a playoff team in Toronto, a borderline play-in team in Memphis. They lose to Phoenix by 14. Then they beat Milwaukee, and they beat the Brooklyn team that just beat the Wolves.
And just beat Denver.
And they beat, So this is just like one of these weird, like the NBA makes no sense, but I agree with you. This is maybe the worst defensive basketball team they've played.
That was, it was crazy. Like it didn't even register. Like nothing that the Wolves did tonight looked hard at all.
No,
like Ant was incredible. But he was able to get himself going by just getting like 5 wide open free run, like layups and dunks in the first quarter. And then he like expanded his game to everything else. But even when the Wizards were like hitting those threes in the second quarter, it was like they'd hit a 3 and then the Wolves would just go down and get a wide open layup on the next possession. And it was like the Wizards are going to have to make like 50 threes to win this game.
I mean, it is wild because there was that little bit in the second quarter where it was like, if they can cut it to like single digits, this is going to be maybe a frustrating game. And then the Wolves just went 3 straight possessions to Rudy, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, they can't guard anyone inside. It's just not an option. Which, like, they actually passed the ball to Rudy. Like, this is like a proof in concept of like if Rudy gets 10 shots, they're probably doing pretty good. 8 of 10, 18 points, 14 rebounds, game high plus 32. He had, for most of the game, he had the best defensive rating and offensive rating on the team. Like, shout out Rudy Gobert too.
He's been
to just keep them in, and then when anyone else shows up, they end up winning it. But what was your Rudy take tonight?
Well, I mean, Rudy take tonight, like, once again, I don't feel like we should take a ton away from this particular basketball game, but I will say, like, Rudy, with the exception of I thought that Brooklyn game that they lost was like the worst Rudy game in a while, but short of that, like, he has just been unbelievable for like a month and a half, like 6 weeks. Now he's been their second best player this season, like on balance, and it's just kind of it's kind of turning back the clock to the Rudy Gobert that we were seeing 2 seasons ago when he won Defensive Player of the Year and they were the best defense in the NBA. And I have been pretty critical of Rudy Gobert. I was at the beginning of the season, and I've been for the last couple of years a pretty like vocal advocate that it's like, I think there is a cliff coming with Rudy Gobert at some point is what I always say. And like, I do want to be like off the ride before he goes over that cliff. But like he keeps proving me wrong and he hasn't gone over that cliff yet. And he hasn't even really shown any signs of decline. Like he is having as good a season as he's had in a Wolves uniform. And he's had a really good career in a Wolves uniform.
Yeah, I mean, this is again, it hasn't updated for tonight, but up until this game, I would assume it gets better. But this is the best effective field goal percentage of his career. Like he's putting up good rebounding numbers. He shows up every game. The Wolves are a top 3 defense with him on the floor, and then the worst defense with him off the floor. Like if Wemby doesn't play enough games, Gobert's going to win a 5th defensive player of the year, which is insane.
I will say this. I don't think there's any world where Rudy Gobert wins his 5th defensive player of the year. Like regardless of how good he is and how many people get hurt, because I do just think like they've hit the voter fatigue thing with him. Like I think people will talk themselves in to someone else, whether it be like if he has the best impact numbers of the bigs that are eligible, they'll probably find a way to give it to like Amen Thompson or something like that. Like I just think that the narrative around Rudy Gobert has just gotten to the point where they're like, we've given this guy 4 of these already. Like everyone's going to be pissed if we give him a 5th one. So why bother?
It is wild, like getting to talk to Rudy and stuff, because like he notices all of that stuff. Like, you know, when people are kind of trashing him for his defense, and like last season especially, and like some of the you know, even back in Utah, there was always like the home fans that were like, no, you don't understand, his screen ratio is insane. Like the shooting percentage off of Rudy's screens are awesome. And now it's kind of like transferred to the Wolves, right? Like where like Wolves fans are now trying to explain why Rudy Gobert is good. I kind of agree with you that it would be tough. I also like, I don't know, some of the numbers of like on off Rudy stuff is almost like too good to overlook, which some of that's Naz Reid, which you know,
the on off numbers are just going to be naturally inflated by like the chasm of the gap. Like it's not just that Rudy's having a good season, it's that they've somehow paired him with like the worst defensive front court to like back him up. So they're like, we're getting the 2 polar opposite ends of the spectrum in that way. And like I said, I'm not saying I don't think there's a world where he deserves to win defensive player of the year. I would just be floored if they gave it to him.
The Bill Simmons, Ryan Russillo's a Rudy guy, but like Chris Vernon, Bill Simmons, the national NBA kind of talking heads, I think they might have a stroke if Rudy gets a 5th, because then it's like you're a first ballot Hall of Fame guy.
He's already a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Like, yeah, but like right now he'll get the Rudy effect and get in on like the 3rd year of eligibility. Like
no way. He's won 4 defensive player of the year awards.
I know. Believe me, I know. It is wild, the like outside of wherever he's playing, kind of the hate towards that guy. But yeah,
I mean, he's literally won if he wins a 5th defensive player of the year award, it would be the most defensive player of the year awards in NBA history. Like they're not going to let that happen. And whether it's fair or not.
It is. I mean, I'm laughing because I don't disagree with you. Like there is going to be a write-in campaign against Rudy Gobert winning the defensive player of the year.
Yeah. But I mean, like, they kind of did this a similar thing with Jokic before he won the title, where they were like, we can't give this guy a 3rd straight MVP because he hasn't won the title yet, despite the fact that he was the most valuable player that season. Like once it gets to this level, they start to care about kind of the historical, like the history of like the totality of their career. And here's the truth. I don't think Rudy Gobert is the best defensive player in the history of basketball.
Yeah.
And that would kind of start to build that case. Like it is a little silly looking at some of these defensive player of the year awards. And it's like, oh, Kevin Garnett did not win this award multiple times.
Marcus Smart won it once, and it's
Yeah.
like, huh. Looking back on that one, Marcus Smart's Defensive Player of the Year is one of those like, huh, weird.
Yeah.
A guard? I did want to touch less on, Rudy deserves his flowers. Like I actually, all of the weird starting COVID, all of that stuff aside, like Rudy has actually been really kind to me. He's a delightful person to talk to. Like I think he deserves more flowers than he gets. And like, let's be honest, I think I wrote a piece about it like a month ago, but like he is the reason they are the third best team against teams under 500 this season, because he cares. And in the modern NBA, that means a lot. Champ mentions in the chat, just not to be a downer, the Wizards are horrible. I wouldn't take much from this game, which I think that's what we were saying off the rip. But I did want to touch on just Ant, which, this is now 2 games in a row where I think we're seeing Ant kind of care from the start. Is that kind of how you felt too?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think he did kind of the right things in this game to get himself going. Like I think sometimes when Ant is in kind of his like too cool for school type of thing, he will either come out and be very, very passive early in the
Mm-hmm.
game because and to some degree, that's like kind of, I would think he would say, like, I want to get my teammates involved. I don't think I need to assert myself as much in this game. And sometimes I think he gets like a little jumper happy early in the games. And I think he did a really good job in this game, particularly like just taking advantage of the horrible defense from Washington and getting himself going, like I said, with layups and dunks right
Mm-hmm.
away. And then once he had that rhythm and things were cooking, then the mid-range jumpers started to come in. And then in the third quarter, the three-pointers started going in. And I mean, he finished with 35 points. I think he missed 7 shots.
He didn't score in the
14.
second quarter.
Yeah, and he
Either.
didn't score in the second quarter. He didn't
16 and then
play
19.
in the fourth quarter. So he scored
Yeah.
35 points in 2 quarters of basketball. And yeah, like I just think, like you said, I think he was engaged in this one. Just like full disclosure, I'm interested to see how long he's able to sustain this, because I think this has been something of a pattern in Ant's career, is that he is kind of a touch the stove and realize that it's hot type of guy, where like his career is kind of against bad teams is kind of this cycle of wake up call because things aren't going well. He comes out guns blazing, plays really, really well. And it's like, how long can he sustain that before he lets his foot off the gas and touches the stove again? And so like, maybe this is the turning point. And this is a low stakes. I don't want this to be framed as like, this is the fatal flaw in Anthony Edwards' game. I'm just saying like, it is something of a pattern. And I think it's something that if he can get past that, that's kind of what elevates him into like the MVP conversation, weirdly enough, is like not 1 out of every 5 games against these terrible teams, just kind of coasting and hoping his teammates win it for him.
Yeah, I've been kind of on like the opposite side of Twitter arguments this last week, of being more of the like, this is just the NBA guy. Like, the Spurs lost to Portland tonight at home. New York has lost to Atlanta and then Philly last night. Like that, guys just don't. I just don't think guys are. I'm not going to say it's like wired the same way, because the pod that I was doing last night, I kind of said like, I think when we're younger, we look at these guys as like idols and like they do no wrong. And like, I'm sure Jason Kidd on those Nets teams took some days off, right? Like I'm sure Allen Iverson took some games off. But like, I think now that the Wolves are good and they have expectations, the fan base is kind of experiencing what these good teams do, which is just like sometimes they take a night off against Atlanta and it's super frustrating. But like, I don't think this is going to be like the Ant is just never going to come in with low energy again type of thing. I think for the team, it's good because it's like a proof of concept of like, we can blow these guys out. Like, they aren't on our level, which is good, but yeah.
And I think that's kind of the message you want to hammer home with a guy like Ant, who still is a very young player.
Yeah.
Is it's like, you want the night off against Washington, don't take the night off in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Like, go for their throats in the first quarter, and then you get the fourth quarter off. Like, and I think that is something that he has early in his career not really had like that type of killer instinct for. And so it's just good to see, like I said, at the end of the day, I think I'm never going to think about this Washington Wizards game again after we get off this recording, because it was a disgrace to basketball what was going on. But it was good for the Wolves. It was fun to watch them just kind of like go out and kick the shit out of someone.
It was. And like, that's the palate cleanser, right? Of like, okay, they lost to Atlanta, but this isn't a team that's like not a playoff team, right? Like, they go in, they beat Miami, who's a good team. I feel like, you know, even myself was probably a little dismissive of like, oh, they're gonna, you know, Miami, they should win this by like 15, and they did. But like, Miami's a playoff team in the East, and then
and I
the
think
Wizards have been good.
Yeah, Miami, like, I know we're talking about the Wizards game, but I will say, like, I think that Miami, going into that game, I thought they presented kind of like a uniquely bad matchup
Yeah.
for the Wolves because of the way that they play offense, and because of the fact that Bam Adebayo theoretically should be able to guard Julius one-on-one. Like, those are kind of some of the keys to neutralizing the Wolves, is like, can you guard Julius one-on-one? Like, check that box. And then the offense is kind of, I thought, going in uniquely kind of set up to neutralize Rudy Gobert, because they do so few ball screens and things like that, which is really like where his bread is buttered, and is guarding pick and roll. So I thought, like, oh man, this team's going to like really space it out, do a lot of passing and ball movement, and that's going to kind of neutralize the effect of Rudy Gobert. And then it's like, are Naz and Julius, is that front court going to be able to hold up against all the passing and cutting that Miami does? So I went into that game kind of thinking it was a bad matchup. And I was like, even if they lose this game, it's kind of like the type of game I wouldn't be surprised if they lost. And pretty impressed. They played pretty well. I mean, and they get another crack at them in 2 days, right?
Yeah. Yep. On Tuesday at home. And it's funny with the Miami one, because I was like listening to some Chris Hines stuff that he put up after the game, because he was in Miami, and just like how many guys in the locker room were like, yeah, we actually like paid attention to the game plan this week, and you know, it made all the difference. And it's just kind of like, it gets me back to the Chris Finch side of it, of like, I feel like one camp that is firmly in the like, fire Chris Finch, and then there's the like, no, Chris Finch is the best coach we've ever had, like, let's not let him go just because, you know, immaturity. And there's not much in between, but like, that Miami game was kind of the perfect case for the don't get rid of Finch category, because it's like, it's not like he's scheming these game plans that Atlanta just crushes him, right?
Well, yeah. And I mean, that Atlanta game, we talked about this on our show. Like, that Atlanta game was like the opposite end of this Wizards game spectrum, where it's like, I don't know what meaningful basketball stuff you could have gleaned from that, because like, who cares what the rotation is or what the scheme is if everyone's just like playing at half speed and has terrible body language? Like, nothing else matters if like you're not moving your feet on defense and like fighting through screens, and you're just like taking turns, like dribbling and shooting contested jump shots. So that Atlanta game is kind of a throwout game. I mean, obviously terrible vibes game, and they've done a great job these last two kind of salvaging the vibes, because they go 1-2 over this stretch. I think we're just kind of feeling a sense of the ship sinking as we approach the trade deadline a little bit more, but they've kind of like steadied things a little bit now. But yeah, like, so like, to your point though, I just, sometimes they play 82 of these things. Some of these games you just kind of got to throw out as like, some nights you got your best stuff, some nights you got your worst stuff, and you do the analysis in the stuff where you have your middle stuff.
And it does kind of suck, because like, you know, let's say they have one of those games against Miami, like everybody gets into town late tonight. Monday, they're probably like a day off, family day type of thing. Tuesday, they come in with low energy, and like Miami beats them by 15 at home. Like, that sucks for everybody that bought a ticket to that game. But also, like, this is just kind of the NBA now, where it's just guys just don't play every game like it's their last, which, you know, I have theories of how to fix it, but none of those will probably work. I did want to get your take on Jaden too. Cole brings him up that he's glad Jaden got it going. Needs to be more inconsistent. I'm going to assume you meant consistent and put the marijuana down. As Teresa said last night, Little Green never hurt anybody, but like Jaden, he has these moments like tonight where he probably could have had 10 assists if people just made shots on some of these kickouts. Scoring super efficiently, defensively, he was awesome. He was doing his weird Jaden antics where he's just mumbling into people's ears. Like, I don't know what is your Jaden McDaniels experience been? Because I think the last time I had you on the pod, it was like November, and he was scoring 20 points a game.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, he's certainly come down from kind of the beginning of the season when we were like, the Jaden leap is here, like he's a borderline all-star, and he's kind of settled back into a little bit more inconsistency. I think for me, the thing I would like to see more from Jaden is for him to kind of assert himself a little bit more often like he did tonight, because it feels like so often Jaden, when he is in kind of this like rut of inconsistency that I think he's been in these last handful of games. Like, I think
he was
a big like reason with the bad body language stuff against Atlanta. And he had a little bit of a meltdown at the end of that Miami game that the game was already out of reach, but it was kind of like, Jaden, you can't be like shoving a guy when they're mounting a comeback like that. But so often
also like Jaden just kind of like punches brick walls, shoves people, grabs people by the shirt collar and lifts them off the ground. Like, you know.
Yeah. But I feel like so often like Jaden has a tendency to be like I don't know how to word, like the game, like he lets the game kind of happen to him versus kind of like dictating the way that more like than plugging himself into the game. Right.
Yeah.
Like Jaden, they talk about how he's the barometer of the offense or whatever. It's like, if the ball's moving, it finds Jaden on cuts and things like that. And that's where we know things are going really well. And that's great. We want Jaden to do that, but also I'd like to see him take a little bit more ownership and kind of force his will upon the game a little bit more, particularly on offense, because like what he was doing at the beginning of the season is like, he just realized he's too big for people. And it's like, he's so big. And if he can get it like within 6 or 7 feet of the basket, he can just shoot over most of the people who are guarding him. And most of the people who are big enough to defend him are not quick enough to defend him on like a first step. So I would just like to see him kind of assert himself a little bit more. Like, he's going to play out of the corners a lot, especially at the start of games, because they have two really, really high usage guys playing next to him. But when he gets the ball, like, don't be afraid to kind of like pump and drive baseline, and like, don't just like settle for jumpers early, and don't just like feel like you need to be a ball mover. And I think that's what he did tonight, because Washington tried to guard him with like a really small guard in the first quarter, and Jaden was like, I'm way too big for this guy. So that's kind of my thing with Jaden, is like I said, just like, believe in yourself more. like don't play like a role player, play like a dude.
It's funny because like I think everyone I've had on, that's kind of the gist of their Jaden McDaniels take, is just like, I just wish he believed in himself more. And then you like talk to like Finch, assistant coaches, players around the team, and they're all kind of like, yeah, we all want Jaden to just like do his thing more. Like, we're never mad when Jaden like just takes it and does it. Like, it usually works out good. It is like Jaden is the limiting partner in all of this, is Jaden being like, no, I have to move the ball, or no, I have to play the right way, or like, I've missed 2 threes, I can't take a third. And it's just, it must be like frustrating on Finch's end of just like, you have this Ferrari that like, he's 6 inches taller than anyone who guards him. He's figured out the Rudy like lob game, where like Rudy, the only person he catches passes from consistently are now 100-mile-per-hour fastballs from Jaden out of the paint. And then Jaden also is a 40% like 3-point shooter. He can play off the dribble. He has that weird like slow-mo kind of plodding Euro step thing. He has his mid-paint jumper. Like he has such an impressive bag. And then the guy's just like,
What a hilariously like backwards problem. Like the
I
only
know.
basketball player in history where people are like, we simply need him to not pass it as much.
Like I at some point, like the season will be over. And I think like next summer league, I'm just gonna start asking people of like, how weird is it to play with like a Jaden McDaniels, who is like obviously probably the third most talented offensive player on the team and doesn't do anything unless he's like forced to almost.
Or if he's playing the Phoenix Suns. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
We need to get
He
more
does
people.
hate he does
we need to
hate
get more
the
people that
Phoenix
he
Suns.
hates on the other team.
I mean, Jaden does hold a grudge. Like that Phoenix Suns thing is real. I think the Jamal Murray Nuggets thing is real. So maybe we do just have to start. Like I know I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and like he's like, yeah, my girl's like terminally online. Like she reads everything, and like sometimes she sends it over to me. Like maybe we just have to start making up beefs for Jaden, and then Allison will just be like, did you hear that like Trey Burke hates you?
Well, Trey Burke is a bad example because I'm pretty sure Trey Burke's been out of the league for like 10 years.
He's on the Winchester Knicks.
Is he actually?
I think he's still in the G League. I don't know if it's
Trey
Winchester
Burke,
still, but
he's 33. Wow, Trey
yeah,
Burke.
maybe someone more relevant.
Trey Burke is 3 days
Suns.
younger than me.
Yeah, you're right. That's probably a touch one.
And you can't say Colin Gillespie because he already hates someone on the Suns.
That's what I was gonna say. Jovic for the Heat. We could start that now and see if like it ends up with a 30 ball on Heat night on Tuesday.
That's a good idea. We need to make like a Nikola Jovic burner and just tweet out like Jaden McDaniels sucks.
It is like, to your point though, it's the opposite problem I think that you have with so many players in the league where it's like, no, we want you to be the second banana like next year. You gotta do things. It's just tough. We did have like quite a few of the garbage guys get time today. I do want to get your take on that. First, I'm going to throw us over to a couple ad reads though, and then maybe we'll talk some Leonard Miller because why not?
When else will?
Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read. This time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. Just want to catch up on chat here. Cole says he doesn't like the Spurs because of Sohan. Fair. There is some beef there. Champ adds kid gloves on Jaden's performance. I believe it's the most concerning of the starter. He'd need to rebound more. Jaden, I think, always needs to rebound more. I think in games that matter, he's pretty solid, but Jaden. And then Mini Sports Fan, I believe he's talking about Jaden here. I loved his, he's like an introvert who is a public speaker and then goes and passes out after from a full exhaustion. Yeah, that's kind of Jaden. Also a fun Jaden fact for people who didn't know, he was college teammates with Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart, which like that had to have been terrifying for some people to play against.
Do not piss those guys off.
Like the fact that both of them played college, Jaden, when he came into the league, I remember there was like scouting reports that like, he's kind of a hothead. He gets a lot of texts. And I don't think there was enough of like, yeah, but he was also playing with Isaiah Stewart, and Jaden's one of those guys that like, I think if Ant were to start something, Jaden would be the first person into the pile throwing haymakers. And like, how many of those texts were because Jaden was just flying in to back up Isaiah Stewart? If anyone's bored and wants to watch old Washington film. Beck, I do want to ask you though, just, of the guys that don't get a ton of minutes, we can throw Jalen Clark in there too, because I feel like he's been kind of in and out of the rotation, but who kind of caught your eye the most in that fourth quarter?
Oh man, I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't paying like that close of attention in the fourth quarter, but I mean, like Johnny Juzang made some shots. I think like of that like final lineup. I mean, if we're throwing Jalen Clark in there, obviously Jalen Clark is the guy who I think has a case or has the case to get real minutes, because he does get some real minutes, and I think he's demonstrated that he's like a capable NBA role player. But like of the Joe Ingles, Johnny Juzang, Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller crew, like I guess I would say Johnny Juzang has like a skill that could like translate. Like he can really shoot it. He's not a very good defender, obviously. I'll be honest with Leonard Miller, like I've never really seen it with Leonard Miller, and I'm not sure I really like understand what the vision with Leonard Miller is. And it's kind of weird to me that he's just kind of like made it on the roster 3 straight years without them ever really even like, it's like they don't even care about that roster spot. And then Joe Ingles doesn't even like want to play. So
yeah, Joe, I there was one game last year where people were chanting for him to go into the game, and Sneaker Reporter, friend of the show, like looked over at me. He was like, I think Joe's wearing his like street shoes. I don't think he can even like play if he wanted to. Like, I don't think he has basketball shoes on. So Joe might just be here for vibes.
And inbound passes. He
and
scored though.
Passes. He did score. First bucket of the season for Joe Ingles. Might be the last.
He went remarkably long. He set last year, I'm pretty sure he like set or tied the Timberwolves record for most minutes played without scoring to start his Timberwolves career. Like he had played,
that kind of checks out.
He had played like 50 minutes without scoring or something.
It's just so clear that he's like, because you ask around the locker room, right? And everyone is like, no, he's awesome. Like he helps in film stuff. He's not afraid to like chew people out in a way that Finch can't really chew people out. Like he's great. We love him. But like when he's playing, it's just so obvious that he just doesn't want to score anything. He's just like, yeah, I'll hang out here. There was like a broken play, like transition, where someone bricked a layup. Joe watched someone else rebound it, pass it to a cutter, and dunk. And I think he took one step throughout that whole sequence.
Yeah, like I just think like he just doesn't. I don't think he is in playing shape. I don't think he intends to ever be in playing shape again. Yeah. And I think, like you said, he's just there for vibes. And I mean, he's just an expensive assistant coach that throws inbound passes at the end of games.
He also I think he got trolled a lot last year because Finch let it slip that he was doing like he was Luka Doncic on the scout team, and it was like, oh God, they have Luka, we have Joe. Like, what are we doing? But like he's also such a smart player that he can like almost mimic some of this stuff, like certainly in slow motion and like walkthroughs, but like he can understand like this is how Luka plays. This is the type of reads he looks for. Like I can do that to a very lesser extent, but like it's meaningful. Leonard Miller, like he had a cool alley-oop.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory is like his locker is right next to Ant, and everyone on the team says he's the funniest player on the team. So I think he's just a good vibe. And like that's Joe's here for film sessions. Lenny's here for a good vibe.
I do think you got to be careful. Like, you only have so many roster spots. Like, you got one roster spot open because you don't want to go over the second apron. You got another roster spot for Joe Ingles for vibes. You got Leonard Miller. Like, at some point, the roster spots have to be for guys who can play.
Well, and there's a couple chats. Cole just mentioned, guys, Rob looked awful. Mini sports fan. Rob needs to go to the Bones Hyland self-confidence school. Yeah, Rob, it was I'm gonna be honest, the last like 5 minutes, I like, it didn't even feel like he was out there playing. Like, he was just a traffic cone on defense, and on offense looked like he wanted no part of even touching the ball, which, man, I think this is the stuff that, like, Finch sees these guys every day in practice, which I know gets said a ton, right? But like, they also do like full scrimmages with the last 7 guys on the roster, some assistant coaches, like very competitive, like trying to get game plan stuff down. And then Rob has like those opportunities, but then also like 6 minutes tonight where he just looks terrible. Like, I don't know. I don't really blame Finch for being like, we're going to go Bones here for the rest of the way.
Yeah. I mean, I am the worst person to ask about Bones versus Rob Dillingham stuff. Because I am like famously like to the point of it being a bit pro Bones. But yeah, I was never like the highest on the Rob Dillingham pick from the start. Like, I do see the vision as like the player archetype. But I think the thing that has been most concerning about this season in particular from Rob is that the things that were supposed to be his flaws have not been big flaws. Like,
Yeah.
he has held up his end of the bargain on the defensive end and has not gotten, like, he's never going to be a good defender, but he has been
I
acceptable
think
on
he's
that end.
fine. He's fine.
He's acceptable on that end if he is the offensive player that he was drafted to be. And I think that is the biggest concern, is that he has not been a good offensive player. And for me, I just am going to continue to be concerned until he has like an extended stretch of making shots. That I think the 3-point shooting is kind of the fatal flaw in his game, if there is one. Because everything about his offensive game kind of keys off of the fact that the defender needs to be guarding him. Like, he is a really good ball handler. And I think when he breaks down a defense, I think he is a good passer and playmaker and has really good vision and can make plays out, like when he gets by his man and stuff like that. But he's never going to get by his man if his man is standing 6 feet away from him because they don't think he's going to make a 3-pointer. And it's concerning to me that a guy at that size has struggled so much with 3-point shooting, like basically since day one. And there's just the concern that the NBA 3-point line just kind of swallowed him up, that he's just not strong enough for the extra however many feet the NBA 3-point line is. And that's something that he can get stronger. Like, he can work out. It's possible that we're just looking at a small enough sample that it's just an actual non-issue and he's going to get over it. But that's what I've seen so far. And that is where like my concern lies, is that his whole game hinges off of this thing that we just haven't seen him succeed at yet. And there is a plausible explanation for why it's not working.
One of my dogs, when the older one and the puppy start to play, the other one wants to play, doesn't know how, just barks at him until they stop, and then no one gets to play. So that's what's happening outside my door. I share your Rob concerns. Like, I'm pulling for him. Like, he's such a nice, like, sounds like an old, like, it makes me sound like such an old man, but like, he's such a nice young man. He's like pleasant to talk to. He's like pretty introspective about himself. I think you're spot on though. Like, his defense is fine, which would be great if his offense was good. But if his offense is bad and he's fine at defense, I'd rather have Jalen Clark out there whose offense is bad, but his defense is awesome. It's just tough. I think the other thing with Rob is like, I know there's a lot of like, did Finch mess up his confidence? Like, what's going on with him? Like, he's like in college, the things he was best at was like getting to the paint, making layups, hitting floaters, and then being able to like hit step backs and kind of make like difficult shots. Very Bones Hyland-esque, which like I think I tweeted out like just the blank draft grades on both of them, and they're like identical as prospects. Like Rob as a pro, he doesn't even use the floater anymore, like ever. And for people that are like, you know, they're trying to turn Rob into Mike. Like if that was the case, he'd be shooting floaters. Like that's what Mike did for 18 years. He's not good around the basket. He chunks layups. He's missing threes. It's just like, it's tough, but you know, Bones has been good. I'll let you cook on Bones because I feel like you are the chieftain of the Minnesota Bones Hyland fan club. Like what has been so encouraging with Bones this year?
Yeah, so I mean, he's kind of going through it a little bit shooting wise, these last handful of games. But I think like Bones, we talked about this on our show too. Rob Dillingham is an example of this too. Like Chris Finch, since day one, has been trying to find this archetype of player to play on his second unit. Like it was supposed to be Jalen Noel. It was supposed to be Shake Milton. It was supposed to be Rob Dillingham. And they've just never really kind of squared away like the right guy for it. But I mean, the thing he does is just like provides like he provides like a spark and a little bit of like variance to the second unit. Like it's not that Bones Hyland is going to come in and score 15 points every night, but it's that Bones Hyland at any given moment can score 10 points in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's just like a thing outside of Naz Reid, who is like a tier ahead, like a tier above that type of player. But that is like a type of creator that they haven't really had in their second unit. And I think that is kind of the encouraging thing about him. And I think the thing that sets him apart, I mean, from Rob, aside from the fact that he's just playing better offensively than Rob, is that he is also not a great defender, but he is not small. He's light. He's not tall, but he's got a huge wingspan. So he can be like disruptive, getting steals, block shots, things like that. But ultimately, I think the thing that is going to like, I think the reason like I've always been kind of behind the idea of betting on Bones Hyland is like, I made this comp years ago before they even signed Bones Hyland, when I was making a case to trade for Bones Hyland. He's probably not going to be as good as Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but the idea with Nickeil Alexander-Walker was like, you bet on these guys with NBA skills who haven't worked in different contexts. And the fact of the matter is, regardless of his flaws, like he is turnover prone, he can be a little bit like over enthusiastic, things like that. The fact of the matter is Bones Hyland is an elite 3-point shooter in the NBA. Like decent case. He's probably the third best 3-point shooter, fourth best 3-point shooter on the team. Like Ant, Nas are probably better 3-point shooters than him. Maybe Mike Conley in like a straight up, like wide open 3-point shooting contest. But like Bones Hyland is a legit high volume, make a bunch of 3-point shots guy. And that is a skill that is just going to play if he can like reel in all the other stuff, which I think he has. And he's just brought in, like, to your point, like way earlier in the episode about them kind of having a little bit of like a lack of life in some of these games, is that he does just kind of bring this like 5-hour energy shot of like, wow, guys, someone's out here running. Like we should probably start running to keep up with him.
I mean, he said it after one of the games. He was like, I like to play fast. So if you're not running, you're not getting the ball. And it's like, yeah, that fair. I do think like the thing I see Bones, like if I'm looking at it of like Bones being more than just a bench guy, is when Julius has the ball, a double comes, he swings it to like Jaden makes the extra pass and it's to Bones, and Bones has like a rotating defender running at him. He does the same thing Dante does. Like he can shoot the three, But Bones also can just put the ball on the deck, drive in, and then pass it back to Ant for even more open three.
But he
And
can
like,
also drive. He can also drive and finish because he's got such
yeah,
long arms. Like
he can also finish. He
he is
also passes to Rudy,
yeah.
which is like a big deal in my mind.
Like he is just a good offensive player. And I mean, like I said, the shooting is he's going through it a little bit, shooting the ball right now. And that's where I don't think that we need to, like, I think we have a tendency when guys play well to kind of like keep wanting to promote them to we keep dreaming bigger and bigger and bigger about them. It's kind of the Nickeil Alexander Walker, like, can he be the point guard of the future thing? Like, or we could just have let Nickeil Alexander Walker be like really good at the thing he was good at. And it's like,
yeah.
So I don't think we need to dream on Bones Hyland being a starting player on the championship Timberwolves. But if he is one of the 9 players on a really good version of the Timberwolves, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what, like, that's where my case is like, he gives you something different than Dante. Like, Dante is, I think, objectively a better defender than Bones. Like, he just energy wise getting into it, knowing where to be. And I think Dante is a better just pure shooter than Bones. Like, they were both just shooting next to each other. Dante probably wins. Bones is significantly better, just like put the ball down, go to the rim, and then make a decision. Like, how many jump passes does Dante make a game? Like 3? Bones doesn't make any. And like, those are the things where it's like, okay, if Dante's not shooting well, we can put Bones out there and he'll give us something different to mix it up. Whereas like right now, if Dante's not shooting well, and before we were playing Bones, it was like, Rob, give us anything. TJ, give us anything. Jalen, can you please hit a 3? Like, they didn't really have anything else. It was Jalen. It's either Dante's making his shots or it's just, all right, the starters got to win it.
And they were just kind of handcuffed to this, like, you have to have one of Julius or Ant on the floor at all times, because as good as Nas is, as Dante is when he's playing well, those guys are play finishers, not play starters. And I think that's the other thing that Bones has really like helped a lot with, is that he is a guy that the defense, he's a guy that can dribble, that the defense is actually worried is going to score. And I've talked a lot. I talked a lot before this season that, like, outside of Anthony Edwards, this team had guys who could dribble or they had guys who could score. And they did not have very many guys who could dribble and score. You know what I mean? Like, you're like Dante and Nas, those guys can make shots. You know, like Julius Randle can score in his own way. I really don't think Julius Randle's like a great ball handler. You know, Jaden, he can finish plays, but you don't want him like dribbling a lot. Rudy can finish plays. You don't want him dribbling a lot. And then like Mike and Rob, those guys can dribble, but like they get inside the 3-point line and the defense like sprays out to shooters because they know they're not going to score. So Bones also just represents, outside of Ant, like a credible threat to break the paint and actually go finish a layup.
Cole agrees with you. Godfrey just had to mention that 6'4", 190-pound Bub Carrington was drafted after Rob, which, yeah, the Rob, unless Rob really turns it around in year 3 or he gets traded somewhere and turns it around, like it's starting to look like there's a better chance it's not going to work out than it is, which unfortunately, like, that's the nature of lottery picks. Not every one of them turns into anything. We saw Marvin Bagley tonight. I'm going to be honest. I barely, like, that guy's still in the league and I was kind of shocked. And that was,
he's been playing pretty well for Washington before he committed like 4 fouls in like 8 seconds in this game.
Brandon, we'll leave it with this one though. Cole just asks, do you think we have some of the best shooters in the league on our team right now? Any numbers supporting it? I mean, the Wolves are like top 10 in true shooting and top 10. I think they're actually 10th in 3-point percentage. They were higher earlier, but like, I don't know. What do you think, Brandon?
I think like that is probably the thing that this team is the best at, is like on the whole, is like they should be a really, really high level 3-point shooting team. And I think that's probably what plays into a little bit of their inconsistency.
Yep.
sometimes is that 3-point shooting, regardless of how good you are at it, is like a high variance thing. But like straight up outside of Stephen Curry, I think Ant is the best 3-point shooter in the NBA. Like shooting it at the volume and like the difficulty of the shots that he has taken. Um, and now going on 2 years of being a 40+% 3-point shooter at that insane volume, at that insane difficulty level. Like, I just think he is, like I said, outside of Stephen Curry, the literal greatest 3-point shooter ever. I think he's the best 3-point shooter in the NBA right now. And then like he's really going through it right now. But Dante DiVincenzo, when he's open, I do trust usually those are going in. And he is
Yep.
he's going to come around on that regard. Like that is not something I worry about in the long term. And like I said, I think Naz Reid, fantastic 3-point shooter. Mike Conley hasn't played terribly well this season, but I still, if he's open in the corner, I think that's going in. And yeah, Bones, great 3-point shooter. So yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm not that well versed in like the 6th through 9th men on some of these other teams. Like, and then it's hard to know, like Denver makes a crazy number of 3-point shooters, but how much of that is just the fact that Nikola Jokic is like at the center of all of it, generating a lot of those 3-point looks. But yeah, like I said, I think that is, I don't know if they're the best in the league at it, but I think that is the thing that they are best at. And like the thing that they can kind of hang their hat on offensively is that they can put out some really, really good 3-point shooting lineups.
I do agree with you. Like I think that's their best offensive like skill. I mean, Ant last season, that season last year was I think it ended up being the 4th best volume 3-point shooting season in the history of the game, behind like 2 Steph seasons and a Harden season. Like he's doing it again this year. Like he's more efficient this year, arguably. So
well, yeah, he's more efficient this year, though. He's shooting it actually I didn't even realize this, at a lower volume than last year, but he's more efficient this year because the 2-point shooting has just gotten insane too from him.
Which is just like, I know there's frustrations with Ant right now. And like with this team, like the point I was going to make with shooting is when playoffs start, the only 2 non-shooters that even have a chance at sniffing the lineup are Rudy and Clark. And Clark probably plays like 6 minutes. Like they're going to be able to have 4 shooters on the floor at all times for an entire playoff series.
And Clark probably only plays if Clark is playing well, like type of thing. Like he's not going to be, unless they're like really, really injured or something when the playoffs roll around. Jalen Clark isn't the type of player that they're going to like let sink the ship.
Yep.
Versus like,
I mean, right now it's probably their starting 5, Naz, Bones, Mike, I think is probably where their trust would lie right now. And then you just play some small lineups, play some bigger lineups. And if Mike's having a bad game, then Jalen gets thrown in.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the roster is going to look different post trade deadline in some way. Like whether they make a big swing trade that's Julius for one of the million point guards that they've been tied to, or if they make like a smaller scale trade for just like some sort of role player swap, or there's a Rob Dillingham or a Terrence Shannon trade or something. Like I think they're going to add to the team in some context. And then I also think, we were actually just talking about this in our group chat the other day, I think the easiest thing in the world for them to do post trade deadline in the buyout market is just like get a big Gomer big man who can like play if Rudy gets into foul trouble. Like 5 to 10 of those guys are going to get bought out after the trade deadline, and you just kind of like take your pick and sign them for a minimum for half the season to your open roster spot. And like I said, they're not changing the way you do your rotation, but if you're playing the Denver Nuggets and Rudy picks up 2 fouls in the first quarter, you're not dead because of it, because you just have another guy on the bench who's strong enough to push back.
And they're always there. Like
those are the guys that are available like post trade deadline all the time.
There's always a Plumlee. There's always Kelly Olynyk. There's always
DeAndre Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan. Yeah.
Like these guys are not changing the face of your team, but like I do think that's just an easy thing for them to do is just get a guy who's big enough to play if Rudy gets in foul trouble.
Yeah, I know I said that was the last thing, but like what is your thought on trade deadline? Like, do you have anywhere you're leaning? Like, do they go point guard, big, another wing dude? Like what's kind of your hierarchy of where they should go?
Yeah, so we just talked about like outgoing trade asset stuff on our latest episode. I'm of the mind that
I hope you broke it to the fans that Mike Conley is not getting traded.
that is literally what we said. We were literally like, as much as it like makes sense asset wise and like he helps with salary math in a lot of contexts, like I just straight up think the only way they would be willing to trade Mike Conley is if it's like, we have a deal on the table for Giannis Antetokounmpo and we need $10 million to make the math work. And like, spoiler alert, they're not trading for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So that's not happening. Like, I think if you ask the Wolves front office, they would say they think they are getting $10 million of value from Mike Conley, regardless of if he plays at all.
Completely agree.
But yeah, I'm of the mind that like, I am not fully against the idea of a big swing trade that involves like Julius Randle or something like that. I don't love any of the point guards that they've been tied to. Like, I'm not a LaMelo Ball guy. I'm not a Trae Young guy. Certainly not James Harden guy, especially just because of like age wise. I think that's kind of like not great asset management from like, I think you run the risk of kind of burning up more of your assets by trading Julius Randle for someone significantly older than him. But like, I think that especially with Julius Randle, it's very, very important if they make a trade involving Julius Randle that they get that trade right. Because I think what Julius Randle represents is a real like borderline all-star level creator next to Anthony Edwards. And because of how strapped for picks they are, they don't have a lot of means to acquire that type of player. And so if you do not turn Julius Randle into the next iteration of that player, then it's really hard to get one of those players in the door by other means. So I'm not into the idea of like liquidating his contract for role players or anything like that, but I'm open to the idea if the right fit is out there making that trade. I don't necessarily know who that is because, like I said, I don't love any of the names that they've been tied to. Like, if you could guarantee that Kyrie Irving's knee is healthy and that he's not completely crazy, like, then like sign me up. I think that's like a really good basketball fit next to Anthony Edwards. But short of that, like, I just don't love any of those names. So I'm more in the boat of like looking into kind of like those role players, like the Colin Sexton, like Kobe Whites are guys that I am intrigued by. The salary math on them is a little tricky. Like, if you're trading Dante DiVincenzo for those guys, like, I think that could potentially make sense as more of like dribble creator type of guys. So I think there's a lot of different ways they can go, and I'm not like totally 100% like this is the guy that they need. Excuse me. This is the guy that they need to go out and get. But like I said, I definitely think that the thing that they definitely need to address is I think they need to get a backup center. Like I said, I don't even care if they're good. I just want like a guy who is big. And I don't think they have to do that with a trade. Like, like I said, I think that's just going to be a guy that's available in the buyout market. Maybe it's part of a bigger trade, something like that. But other than that, like, I don't know. Like I said, they've been tied to every name that comes out as available. So they're doing their homework, and I'd be surprised if they didn't do something, just because they've kind of sat a couple transaction windows out.
Matt Lloyd, I think it was on one of like, maybe it's either Flagrant Howls or Dane Moore, or maybe he told me it at Summer League. I can't remember where I heard him say it, but like we were asking him like what he does like for his job basically. And he was like, well, I just kind of call people. Like I work 50 to 60 hours a week. So I just kind of every couple days go down the list of GMs and give them a call and see if they want to move anyone and then like hang up and do something else. So like that's every one of these links is going to have truth to it. Cause like Matt Lloyd is calling these people every week. Like, so Kobe White for a second rounder? No. All right. Click. And then it's over. I think a big move is coming. My side or my take on it is I think it's just this offseason. Like the 33 pick gets opened up. They can swap the 32. They can trade this year's first after they draft them. Like there's just a little more assets to go from like Julius to like an actual like guy, whether that's, you know, like they probably still don't have enough in the tank to get like Giannis, but like Bam Adebayo, like could you do Julius 3 firsts, some stuff to like make the salaries match, and you have Ant, Jaden, Bam next year? Like that's kind of where my head's at.
It's just easier to make those types of trades in the off season too, like because we talked about this too on our show. Like I don't think they're going to trade Rudy at the trade deadline, but I do think they open up that possibility again in the offseason. Like I think there was a world where they traded Rudy for Kevin Durant this offseason, this previous offseason. I think that in particular, like those are the type of trades that are way easier to make in the offseason because those require a rethinking of your roster that you need more time than the trade deadline to adjust. Like if you trade one of those like kind of cornerstone pieces, regardless of if you think they're foundational pieces on a championship team, like trading Rudy Gobert requires you to rethink your roster dramatically. And there's a lot of subsequent moves that have to come in after that happens that are just easier to make in the offseason. And then in the offseason, there's free agency and the draft and all this other stuff that can kind of help you fix those things instead of it being like, okay, we just did this trade. Now we got to make 2 more trades to make it work.
I mean, you're spot on. Like that's, you know, that's like if you trade Rudy, the entire defensive scheme is focused around funneling into Rudy for him to be like the best like shot deterrent in the league. If you just trade Rudy, you have to rework your entire defense. It's not like 2K where you can just figure it out, or like Madden where you can just go from a 4-3 to a 3-4 and now you don't need another D tackle. Like it's just complicated. And I agree with you. Like if it's a Randall for like Bam and there's pieces like Rob, TJ, Randall, the picks all going out, Bam coming in, then you're probably trading Rudy to get like more traditional lineup stuff. You're probably extending Dante. Like it's just, it would be so complicated to do in season. I honestly think, like, I know the point guard is kind of the hot topic on like Wolves Twitter and kind of in the national media, that they need a point guard. Like, I don't really think they do. Like, I think when playoffs come, you're gonna get enough from Ant, Julius, Mike, Dante, Bones that it'll be fine. I agree with you. Backup big is like, they need that. Like a Brooke Lopez would fix so many problems for this team. Like even Jock Londell from the Grizzlies, add another Aussie to the group, and like that would fix so much. Just a capable backup center that like it allows you to play Nas at the 3 more. It just makes so much more sense.
But and then like to that point though, like Jock Landale, he's having a great year, so he's not going to get bought out by the Grizzlies.
No, it'd be a trade.
But a year ago, that was like the exact type of guy. Like Jock Landale very well might have just gotten bought out and just been like available to someone. So like you can just, I think that is something that you don't need to like dedicate any of your limited assets towards. Like I think, like I said, just wait it out and then take your pick. You're going to probably be like close to the front of the line on this because the second apron teams can't sign buyout guys, and you're going to have a role to offer them. You're going to be able to just be like, hey, you see how we only have one center on the roster? You would be the other one.
I mean, Brooke Lopez is probably that candidate. If the Clippers are still bad after the trade deadline, like I guarantee he wants to start getting out of there. Like,
Yeah, but he's got a
if,
team option, so he's probably not getting bought out.
yeah, I don't know. There will be guys though, and you're right that the Wolves will be appealing. Like, you can be a piece of a playoff run versus being the third big in San Antonio, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I completely agree though. Backup big has been kind of the most illuminating this season. And like, I don't know if it's just Nas just isn't like he's objectively a bad defender. Like all of the advanced stats, counting stats, Nas is not a good defender. But like theoretically, he should be. Like he's 6'10, good length, he can move like pretty laterally. I
Yeah.
just
I mean, I think it's like that Rudy, like Rudy is fine with either Randall or Nas. Like those guys
yeah,
hold up reasonably well next to Rudy, and a lot of that is because of Rudy, obviously. It's the Randall plus Nas thing, and it's just like Nas, as he is long, like he can block some shots, but he is like, as he's slimmed down to get better offensively, he just doesn't really have like the bulk to
yeah.
hold up defensively, and the rebounding is kind of a problem. And then Julius Randle, like it's just like a wingspan problem. Honestly, I think it's just like Julius Randle is good as a lot of things. He has really short arms for a guy that's 6'9", and like he's listed at 6'9". He's probably like 6'7", maybe. Like he's
If you want to see like how much height doesn't matter in the NBA, just look for Jaden to stand next to Randall because they're both listed at 6'9".
yeah,
Like
and
Jaden's towers over him.
And then when you just throw in the wingspan, like he plays smaller than that on that
Yeah.
end too. Like people have been throwing around like the Julius Randle blocked shots stat. And it's like, yeah, he should probably have more blocks than Yon Beringer, who has played exclusively garbage time, but he's not going to be a good shot blocker because
No.
he's not built to do that.
He also like I think Nas and Julius just have times where they're like prone to brain farts, like where it's just like, oh shoot, where's my guy? Because they were
And
watching the
neither
ball
of
or
them
doing
are
anything
capable
else.
of covering for the other one in that
Right.
instance. So you
So
like
it's like
the brain fart percentage is doubled because they're both out there together.
like when Rudy's out there and you have a brain fart, like the odds that guy's gonna get a lob is very low. When Rudy's not out there and you like just momentarily lose focus, like it looks so much worse, which yeah, back up big. We're both in agreement. Brandon, you gave me an hour again. I don't think I've ever gotten you out of here under an hour. So anything you want to plug, anything on your mind you want to get off, scolding hot takes, anything.
No hot takes. Yeah, just check out our podcast. Check out we're on Twitter and Blue Sky at No Pants Crunch, and then our at Crunch, and then Crunch Wears No Pants on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm at Brandon Beck 4 on Twitter and Blue Sky as well. Yeah, other than that, keep watching the Wolves, I'd say.
I appreciate you, man. We'll keep watching the Wolves. Miami's next. Godfrey said earlier that Hero and Jaquez might be back, so maybe it's a little bit more of a like grinded out game, but we'll be post game after that one. I think Kyle Teige's on next, so that'll be a fun one too. So
Got a tough
thanks
act to
everyone
follow.
for listening.